So we're going to record this. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go back to Lightwave. So to control lighting in Lightwave, the only place you can do that is in Layout. You cannot add lights in Modeler. And at the moment, if I switch from VPR to Texture Shade Solid, you can see that there are a number of lights that I have in here, but not all of them are turned on just yet. If I switch from camera view to perspective view, we can see a little bit more. You can see I have a light back here, which is the default light, and that is a distant light. I have an environment light, I have an NGON, I have an IES light, and we'll do some other lights as well. Okay, and I want to go over each of them to show you what they do. And there's also, I've made available for you for the more complex lights, for example, like the environmental light, I made available for you a YouTube video that you can watch that's fairly complicated to really be able to refine everything. And to use environmental lights to their fullest. So let's start with the first light, which is the distant light. And I briefly talked about this the other day, but I wasn't really prepared to do my demonstration, so I don't think it was very successful. At least I didn't feel it was. So let's start with that. I'll just go down the default light and then one light at a time and cover each of those. Okay, so here is the icon for the distant light. I'm going to switch back from perspective to camera view. You can see the camera. And actually, no, let me switch back. I'm going to go back to perspective. Because I want to show you that when I move the light, when I select the light, and I come down here at the bottom and I select lights and I look at light properties, this is what you should be able to see. I'm going to go ahead and click here, hiding that. Okay, so here are light properties, and it shows right here that this is a distant light. If we look at basic light properties, we have those here. If we look at shadows, we can look at that. And this is the color of the shadows. When we look at objects, these are my still life objects, and I have actually this in two files. I have the sphere in one file and I have all of these others in another file. Now you can choose to exclude them. So for example, if I take the ball and I want to exclude it, I can. So notice that it's not being affected by the light right now. The same with shadows. We can go back in the objects later, and if we wish to make sure that the lights are not affected by, or the objects are not, wait a minute, that the lights do not affect the objects by leaving shadows, we can do that as well. So right now, as I said, here is a distant light. And the thing that's unique about distant lights is that they are like an entire wall of light. It is equivalent to the sun. So you'll notice that if I move it to the left or to the right, it doesn't affect the scene. If I move it forwards or backwards, it doesn't affect the scene. But if I rotate it, so if I hit Y to rotate and I spin it like so, notice that the scene is being affected now by the light. So that's the only way with distant lights that you can affect your scene. The other thing that makes distant lights a little bit unique now is that by default, if we go back from perspective view to camera view and we look at it in VPR, you can see that the shadow here, let me go ahead and rotate. I'm going to change the heading of it a little bit. So we have the shadows over here. There we go. Notice that the shadows by default with a distant light are fairly sharp and dark. And it looks, especially for a still life like this, it looks a little unnatural. So if you want to change the distant light, again, make sure that you have light properties here. And if you change the angle of the light, we can soften the edge of the shadows. So I'll go ahead and I'll drag and increase the angle edge here to maybe 20 degrees. And let's look at it. Notice how the edges have become much more soft and a little bit, from my perspective, a little bit more realistic. Now with all lights, you can change the color of the light. The default of the light color is white. If I want to add a little bit of tint to it, make it a little bit more yellowish, notice that it bathes the entire scene in that yellow color. We can also affect the intensity of the light. By default, the intensity is assigned in lux. That's what the LX stands for. And it's 3.14. Now, some lights you can apply fall off, some you cannot. Because it's a distant light, we cannot add fall off to this. Okay. So in the future, if you need more light, it used to be assigned in percentages. So now it's in lux. That if I decide, you know what, I want to crank this up a little bit, that it's just not enough for me, that I'll hit 6. So I tend to double it and go, whoa, that's just way too much. So I went from 3 to 6, and then if I do something in between, if I go maybe 4, see how that works. If I'm happy with that, then I'll leave it. But I'm going to go back to the default, 3.14. Okay, so that's our default setting, and I'm going to go back to the default color of white, just so we can see it, like it's a little still light that you would have in your drawing class. So that's what we have here. We have a distant light. So one of the other lights that we've used, and we can change that from here, current light says distant, but I'm going to switch that now because right now where it says light type, it says distant. I'm going to switch to a point light. And look at that, it just goes away because by default, it uses a fall off. So if I turn off the fall off, that will give me a bit more light. To explain fall off to you, it's similar to the way we used fall off in with our modification tools, is that the closer to the light, the more intense it is and the greater effect it has on the objects. As you move away from the light, as you move the object away from the light, you'll still be able to see it, but it will have a lesser effect on those objects. So as you can see now, that even with turning off fall off, this has less effect on our scene than the distant light did. So if I switch back to distant light, you can see that it's a little bit brighter. It affects the scene a little bit more intensely. Let me go back to point light. Whoops, I didn't want that, not photometric, I wanted point light. There we go. So let's go back to point light. With a point light, if I go to shadows, again, the same thing. If you want to change the color of your shadows, you can. Objects, again, if you only want it to affect certain objects and not others, for example, I can exclude the still life or the object, the sphere. Notice that it's the secondary bounces of the light from the floor back up to the object. So if that's the appearance that you're going for, then you can exclude objects. If I exclude all objects, it just goes black. Okay. So that's how that works. Maybe this is the look that you're going for, so that it really focuses it on the sphere. What I can also do is, for example, as I said, if I switch to objects and I look at object properties, that we can come up here and we can look at lights. And let's see. We can exclude, you can see that these are all the lights that I have right now, but many of them aren't turned on. The only one that I have turned on is distant. So I'll take this one. And if I turn that off, it has the same effect. What I do want to do, let's see if I can turn off. I wanted to turn off shadows is what I wanted. I'll come back to that later. At the moment, I'm not seeing that. OpenGL. I'm forgetting at the moment. Oh, self shadow. Oh, there we go. Cast shadow. So if I turn off cast shadows or receive shadows, notice that goes away. Turn it back on. Same thing with cast shadows. Is it casting a shadow or not? We can turn those off as well. Okay, so that's our point light. Point lights also, I go back to basic, that we can add volumetrics to our point light. That's what we did with the first scene that we did with the table and lamp, and added that fog or haze, everything. So that's what that is. So I'm going to switch again from point light to now a linear light. Now, point light, wait a minute, before I do, let me go back to point light for a second. Let me switch from camera view to perspective view. And I'm going to go back to texture. So this is what a point light looks like right here. Just a little tiny point of, or ball of light. And that's it. Because it is a ball of light, if I hit T for move, and it's different than the distant light, that as I move this forwards and backwards now, it is affecting the overall scene, whereas the distant light didn't before. Now, if I hit rotate, because it is a ball of light, it will not affect the scene. So if I hit Y for rotate, okay, and we rotate the light, notice that it's not affecting it. It's because it is a ball. But if I hit T for move, and I move the object or the light behind the scene, or in front of it, or to the left or to the right, it does affect the scene quite dramatically. Okay. Let me stop sharing for a moment. And do any of you have any questions? A few more people have added. We're in here. We have a few more attendees. Let's see. Hello. Sorry, I'm late. What's happening here? Okay. Oh, that's okay. You there, Dan?
I am here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting my demo over again. I wasn't prepared on Monday. So, and I also took your advice, and I went for the IES light sources and downloaded a couple, and they work really, really well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
those.
I'm kind of stoked on those right now.
Awesome.
I'll show you guys later the N-gon, but I'm having difficulty, and maybe you can help me with that, on turning an object into a light source.
Okay. Yeah,
anyway.
Those are the, that's the one where it's a, the N-gon is itself just, you can just add sides to a light.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. The other one is where you actually take a mesh and turn it into a light.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I remember doing that a long time ago, but I can't remember. If you can help me out with that today, that would be great. I do have a really good video tutorial that I got from YouTube. You may have already seen it, and we'll switch to it a little bit later,
Okay.
on using environment lights. He really
Oh,
goes
okay.
into it in great detail. Because I think many of you have noticed, especially with reflective surfaces, he calls them the little fireflies, those little
Oh,
glitches
yeah.
you see, how to remove those. Um, and it's fairly complicated. So he's going to do a much better job than me. So I'm going to go back again. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. We're back. You can see this is one of the IES lights that I have. Here's the
Right.
the NGON. Here's the environment light. I have most of these turned off. The only one that I have active right now is the point light.
Okay.
That's the one that's turned on. So I wanted to switch. I know it says distant up here. I should rename it, I suppose. But anyway, I'm going to switch from the point light now to the linear light. And you can see that it changes. The icon changes, everybody. It will affect volumetrics, but you cannot, with linear lights, you cannot add volumetrics to it. It has a little bit softer shadow than point lights. It has definitely, it's similar to a fluorescent light. And if you were to look at how the linear light is constructed, it is an array of 4 point lights. So let me go ahead and look at this under VPR. And you can see already, based on what we had with the point light, I have intensity fall off turned off with this, but we have the same light intensity, a 3.14 lux. If I go ahead and I move it, if I hit T for move and move it a little bit closer, let's move it. Yeah, it doesn't, it's much softer than many of the other lights. If I go ahead and I crank it up and change this to 6 lux, that's getting closer. If I go to 12 lux, and again, I have the edges are, at least here, a little soft, but they're still pretty strong light source. I don't use linear lights all that much. But again, you can, under the basic settings, you can have it affect diffuse, affect OpenGL, affect specular. And if you turn some of those things off, again, now it won't affect specular highlights. If you want it to be visible to the camera, you can. That will be especially true when you use an area light. And when we view the demonstration on environmental lights, he actually turns the invisibility of the visibility of the light on, which is kind of interesting, the effect that he gets. So there's another light type, linear. The next one up that I want to use is an area light. An area light is, in fact, an array of 4 linear lights. So that's 16 point lights, basically. And that gives you a nice soft edge. And again, if I make it visible to the camera, let's turn that on. I can't see anything. Why can't I see it?
I think you do because you're in VPR mode.
Yeah, but it should. Oh, there we go. Let me go back to camera view. Let's see. Let me turn this down. I'll turn this down to 3. .14. Okay, so let me go back to shaded. Let's go back to perspective. Again, this is this little rectangle here is the area light. And again, it's something that you cannot add. It can affect volumetrics, but you cannot add volumetrics to it. Right. Shadows, again, like all the others, you can change the color of the shadow. Cast shadows, objects that it affects. You want it to affect all the light, all the objects. You want it to exclude some. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. Notice that it's not affecting the sphere anymore. I'm going to turn it off. Hold on. Let me stop sharing. Okay, let me turn it back on. I don't know if that's. Okay. So we're back with the area light. Area lights are used an awful lot because it, especially when we go back to camera view and we turn VPR back on, notice that we get much softer shadows. They aren't as crisp as the ones that we had with the distant light or the point light, and give us a more realistic, at least in interior scenes, realistic look. Okie doke. Any questions so far? No? How many people do I still have? Let me stop sharing here for a minute. Let's see. Okay, thanks of you. One of the questions from Aaron was, do we need to have lights and shadows for your toy or your final project? Absolutely. That, as far as I'm concerned, lighting and surfaces can really make or break a model. Lighting by itself can do wonders. Just as
Can you give me my coffee?
Just as I've shown you here with it's just a simple still life, but it really comes to life with some added lighting effect. So let's switch to a different light. We have an area light here. Let's go to a spotlight. And a spotlight is basically a cone of light. So if I switch from camera view back to perspective view, and I turn off VPR, go back to shuttered, you can see how the spotlight comes out in these rays, but it actually comes out as a cone and a circle. So it may be difficult for you to actually to point a particular light in a direction, because this is definitely has a direction to it, like unlike point light or distant light, just a huge ball of light. So what we can do instead of perspective view, that I believe I showed you the other day, but we'll do it again, we can go to light view. And we can just, I'll select the current light, and you can see that this is the spotlight that we have. So now I can take this and I can move it. I can hit T for move, and I can move this over like so. I can move it up. So if I use my Y, I can move this up like so. I can make it up a little bit higher. I can rotate it, move it down. So as if I believe that lighting specialists are called gaffers. So this allows me to actually be behind the light and to point it in a specific direction. Now, one of the things that we can do with it's the light properties, if I go back to the basic properties, is that up here that we can control the angle of it. By default, it's at a 30-degree angle. If we want it to be much narrower, we can change that. If we want it to be wider, we can do that. So I'm going to use something that's a little bit more narrow. You'll also notice this inner ring right here, this broken dot. This controls from here to here the softness of the edge. And that is right here, the spotlight soft edge down here. And by default, it's 5 degrees. If I make it less and I want a sharper edge, then I can do that. If I want a softer edge, then I can do that. I can move that about. Okay, so let's change that to back to 5 degrees. And I'm going to go back to from current light view. I'm going to go back to camera view, and then from current camera, and I'm going to switch to VPR. Okay, so even with a simple still life, just by using something, a single light source like a spotlight, you can really create the illusion of an environment, of space. And I think that's the advantage, that's the principal advantage that we have working in 3D, is to create that illusion of the third dimension. And lighting does that better than anything. I don't know how many of you have ever gone to Disneyland and have viewed a dark ride with the lights turned on, but it's really pretty, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's not very spectacular. It's pretty ho-hum. But as soon as you see the dark ride with all of the lighting effects, it really comes to life. And that's exactly what I think you can do here with your toy. And especially if you're working with your final project, whatever you choose to do. Another thing that you can do with the spotlights is that you can apply gobos or cucoloras or cookies. So let me go ahead and create one of those for you so you can see what those look like. At school, I have one already prepared, and that is something that I forgot to do. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop and create one for you. I presume everybody can see this.
The
Photoshop that I'm trying to create here.
No, I don't see Photoshop at all. I just see a Lightwave.
I can't see it.
You don't see this screen right here? You're just seeing Lightwave?
Correct.
No, I see Lightwave.
Okay, then I got to stop the sharing and I got to go back and I have to share again. And I'm going to do, there you go. I need to hear from you guys. You can see Photoshop now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So let's create a new file. And I want it, like other files that we've used for image maps, this really should be square. So I'm going to make it 1,000 pixels, not inches, but pixels. Come on, 1,000 pixels.
Salute.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come on. Actually, I'm going to make it just 512. That's all we need. 512 by 512. 300 pixels per inch. I'll go ahead and I'll create that. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. And similar to the way I made the window before, I'm going to go ahead and create my window frame here. And here's my shape object. I'm going to change the color of it to black. Okay. And I'm going to create a couple of more shape objects on top of it that I'm going to use for the window panes. But I need to change this now to white. make sure that it is a shape object. I'll click and drag. No, it's still using black. So I need to change it from up here. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make copies of this. So, yeah, copy of it like so. Copy of it like so. So here's my window. Okie doke. So let me go ahead and save that. Save that as an image. I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file first. And I don't want less than 10. Let me go back here. Go back in images, and I'll save it as Gobo window. Save it. There we go. And I should be ready to go. I think. So let's go back. And now what I can do is from my spotlight, it says projection image. Right now I have none. So if I load it and I go back to Gobo window, okay, notice that the frame is being blocked. But what I can do is if I go back to the image, let's bring up my image editor and let's go ahead and let's, I have that. I need to invert it. Where's my invert? Editing, invert. Not what I wanted. It's allowing all of the light to penetrate except for the frame. So I need to go back and edit that. Let me go back to Photoshop and edit that real quick. Is everybody seeing Lightwave now or no?
I still see Photoshop.
Oh,
I see
okay.
Photoshop.
Okay, so my mistake. Let me go back. I need to make a change anyway. So I'm going to select all. So let's change this. Command T. And let's pull this out like so. I'm just going to use the whole frame for this. Okay, so now let's go ahead and now we can change each of these. Command T. And let's make this bigger. So that's what I want. And actually, if I had softer edges and that sort of thing, it would be pretty nice. So let's save that. Let me, I don't want to stop sharing. I want to, there we go. I want a new share. And I need to go back to Lightwave here. Now you should be able to see Lightwave. And I need to update my file. Of course. So let's go back here. have such a small screen, it's making it difficult for me to do this. There we go. Okay. So let's go back again. I'm going to go ahead and say none. Let's go back and bring it in again. There we go. Now it's working. You see how the light is coming through, but only through the window panes? And it's leaving the mullions intact as if light were streaming through a window. So for example, if I wanted to create a night scene and use a nice deep blue kind of moonlight streaming through the window, and then if I wanted to, in addition to that, go ahead and add volumetrics. So right now I have intensity fall off turned off, but I'd have to turn that back on. Now I got to crank the light up. So let's go to 9. Let's go to 12. Let's go to 24. Let's go to 48. Yeah, I really got to turn this thing way up. I'm going to go to 100 lux. How about 1,000 lux? That's too much. About 750. That's better. See how it looks like the light is coming through the window? Nice effect.
Yes.
So those are gobos or cucoloras. There's again, a video on my website that was done by William Vaughn on gobos and cucoloras to explain probably in a little bit more detail what they are. But they're taken from film, and it's a way of creating the illusion that the light, for example, in our situation is coming through a window when in fact there is no window there. And that's done all the time in film, or at least it used to be. Don't know that they need to do that anymore. So that works pretty nice. Volumetrics. Or to go back and turn volumetrics on, you can see that streaming through. Then in addition to that, instead of using a cucolora, you can actually load an image so that it works like a projector. So for example, for another project that I have this morning, here's some stained glass. So for example, if the light were shining through a window with stained glass, you can see that it's actually being projected through. Now, again, with a simple still life and using something, your lighting effects, lighting effectively, you can create, I think, some pretty dynamic scenes. Okay. I'm looking over here in the chat window to see if there's any more questions. No, okay. Okie doke, so that's a spotlight. So let's change this once again. Let's go to spherical light. So a spherical light is just another big ball of light, but it's a little bit different. By default, it's only 100 millimeters. But we can make this as big as or as small as we want. And it's a cross between a spotlight, or not a spotlight, a point light and a distant light. When we use it in its default settings, you'll notice that the distant light has very crisp, strong shadows. But instead of changing the angle, if we change the size of it now, instead of 100 millimeters, if I change it to 1 meter, now notice how the shadows have softened. Does everybody see that, I hope? Okay. So that's with that, how that works. I think these can work quite nicely. Spherical lights. And again, you cannot add volumetrics to it, but it can or cannot affect volumetrics. So that's our spherical light. If I want to, let's go back and switch to perspective view. And let's go ahead. You can see this up in the corner. So that's the visual of the light. So let's go back to textured solid. And I'm going to move this panel over here so I can zoom out a little bit so you can see. And again, it's just this big ball of light over here. That's what this is. And if I change it from 1 meter to, I don't know, 5 meters, see how big the ball is? It looks very similar to the environmental light in the icon, but it's not. It's a spherical light. And again, if I go back from perspective to camera view, and we look at it in VPR. Again, the intensity of the light is the same, but by changing the size of the light, notice that the shadows now are really, really soft, transparent. And like all of the other lights, you can change the color of the light. We can go back from blue to back to a white light. And see how that looks. And again, we're just using one light at the moment. So the next light that I wanted to cover, aside from spherical lights, I've covered spotlights, spherical lights. I've not covered primitive. I covered point. Let's go ahead and cover photometric. I don't want to change that to photometric because I already have one. So I'm going to bring the N-gon back. And that's turned on. I'm going to bring up the scene editor. And I want to turn my, let's turn the N-gon back on and the light back on. There we go. I'm going to turn off that. That. Okay. Can everybody, I hope everybody has seen Lightwave or no?
I can see light wave.
Okay, good. So current camera VPR, let's make sure that objects, I don't know why it's doing that. Let's turn that off. Oh, I have the end on, that's why. I need to switch this back to the photometric. No, I don't. Let me switch from distant to light. And that light is a photometric. I changed that to 300%. Why isn't it working now? Let me go back. Let's go to perspective view and let's turn off VPR. So this is my photometric light right here. This is the one where I downloaded the, let me move this up. That could be. Let's move this over. So, and let's look at the intensity of that again. I have it set to 300%. I'm going to crank it up to 600% just to see what happens here. And now let's go from perspective back to camera view. Let's look at it under VPR and see. No? Why is that? I think I was tinkering with it and now I've screwed it up.
Is it is it only projecting the shape of the light?
Yeah, but that's fine. I had a really nice scene set up for you guys. So here is, if I look at light properties, you can see that this is the way it looks, but
Oh,
it seems
the
to be affecting
the
this.
light properties window is we can't see the properties of the light.
Oh, you can't?
No, no, we see light wave,
Okay, then let
and I
me,
see the ball, but I don't see the properties window.
oh, shoot. Well, let me say new share. Let's do this. Oh, wow. This shows up when I have a panel and Lightwave, it's showing as a completely separate window. So when I do that, now you can only see the light properties and nothing else.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's going to be a problem for us, that when I'm using,
It was working the other day.
yeah, I don't know why. Shadows, objects, yeah, I haven't excluded any objects, so why is that? Okay, let me change the share again to go back to, let's go back here. Let's see if it's working from here. You see it now or no?
Yeah, I see the light properties window.
But do you also see Lightwave itself?
Yes.
Okay, so I was able to bring that back. Okay. I want let me do a different share then to show everybody where I got these. And thanks to you, Dan. Because something in my scene isn't working, and I had it working really beautifully yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that for a second, and then all of a sudden, like your other objects disappeared.
Yeah, and I don't get why. I don't get why.
And you don't have anything. You don't have anything set for inverse or.
Well, let me go back to my scene editor and let's turn some stuff back on. I may have turned them off by mistake. Still life objects. You know what? Let's turn,
Oh, everything's off now.
yeah. I thought I turned them off. They're all visible, but I thought I turned them off. So let me go back. I'm gonna turn off. Well, that's crappy.
Even your sphere is gone now.
Hmm?
In VPR, I don't even see your
Even the sphere is
spheres.
gone, you're right. So if I turn that, I don't want to lock it. I don't want it.
Are all your lights checked?
Well, let me turn them. There's that light. That's the end gone now. Maybe I'm just going to turn them all on right now. No, I'm going to turn off the distant light. So let's look at light properties. And this is the photometric light, and that's 600%.
Maybe uncheck the N-gon light.
Yeah. Okay. Let's turn off, I already did that. How about turn off the environmental light?
Yeah.
Now it's working. Okay, so I don't know what I did. Now it's working. It's not as spectacular as I had it the other day though, because I've been moving lights around. So let me go from camera view back to perspective view and turn off VPR. And let's move this down. Oh, maybe because I changed the intensity of it. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. And I'm going to change this back to 300% and try that. And let's go back to camera view. Let's go back to VPR. I mean, technically, this is a wall light that I downloaded, but you can see that it is affecting it correctly now.
Mhm.
That really, this should go on the side of a wall to get the effect. The
Yeah,
desired
yeah, those kind of lights are really great for like if you're doing ceiling lights or yeah, if you want the shape of the light to show
Yeah,
up.
I mean, you can see how the light already is interacting very differently with all of the objects on the floor from the others that we've been using. I mean, I just used this one the other day at random, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is very, very effective. It's really very nice. So let me, I'm going to do a new share to show you where I got that, if I can find it. I think it's, oh, here it is right here. I think this is the one that you provided for me. Large resource IES lights collection.
Yeah.
And you can download these for free. So for those of you who are watching for the first time, IES stands for Illuminating Engineering Society. And there's just tons of different lights. You have wall lights. I don't know if you're seeing this now.
I
Every
can
time I
see
do
it.
this, it changes.
I
Okay,
see it.
so here's some wall lights. And these are the patterns that they display. Down lights. Okay, again, an array of them, different light patterns, all very cool. What else have we got here? If you're doing exterior scenes, lawn lights, spotlights, garden lights, street lights, there you go. So if anybody plans on doing for your final scene a street light, could be some pretty dynamic lighting if you use one of these. All you have to do is click on one of them to download it. It says, do you want to download this? And it downloads as a RAR file. I don't know how many of you have used RAR files before. Let me close this. There we go. But there are compressed files. It's like the zip files. And you will have to get a different application if you're on a Macintosh to unzip it. But that's what these do. And so that's, if I go back to that, that's what that is. Back to the scene that I created. Let's go to environment again. So let me do sharing again. And let's go back to this scene. here. Is everybody seeing the scene? There we go. Okay. So let me bring up the scene editor, and I'm going to turn off one. Why don't I see it? I'm not seeing the scene editor now.
Yeah, I don't see the scene editor.
No. Okay, let's try again. There we go. There it is. I was going to go better. So now what I want to do is I want to turn off the light here. Hold on. I'm not looking at the right.
The scene editor is not visible on our screen.
No.
Yeah, we see
Okay.
Lightwave, but not the scene editor.
So let's do a new share. And oh, we're going to run into that same issue that we did a moment ago. But if I do that, we can do that. So now you should be able to see the scene editor now. Oh. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I'm going to go back and share again. So here's the scene editor. Are you seeing the scene editor or not?
I see it, but it's ginormous.
Yeah, that's because it's all by itself.
Oh.
So what I wanted to do, let me use it. So let me switch to lights. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the light. I'm going to turn on the environment light. That's what I want. I may have turned the environment light down. So let me look at light properties here. Yeah, that's turned way down. So let's go to like 5 bucks. It still might be turned off though. So it's working a little quirky for me. I don't know why. Let me close that. Let me go back again. Let's bring up the graph editor. No, I don't want the graph editor. Let's bring up scene editor. How about the dope editor? No. I want to turn the light off. I have the environment light on. I have it still on. I'm having the same issue that I had before with the other one. And I'm not sure how to remedy it at the moment, because I don't have anything excluded. That's a distant light. Let's switch to environment. Oh, man. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Um, okay, let's try again. Share screen. And, oh. Let me turn some of the lights back on. So that's working. Why isn't my environment light working now? That's weird.
I think because you need a HDRI image background for that.
But it was working the other day. Okay.
Do you have a in background in backdrop? You have a image world set up.
Yeah, no. So let's go to backdrop. Let's try gradient. See if that affects. So if I have environment on now, let's turn off that light. Yeah, it's sort of working now. It's way, okay.
Yeah, the environmental light acts like a multiplier.
Yeah. So let me go back to the gradient light again, the properties. Let's turn this off. I want environment light. I'm going to turn this back down to 3. And that's still way too much.
Do you have other lights on in the scene?
I don't think so, but who knows? Let me bring it back up. Let's go back to scene editor. You just have, as far as I can tell, is I just have the environmental light. If I turn back on end on, that's what that looks like. If I turn on the main light again, then it's way too bright. Well, let me show you where the video is that you guys can watch on your own time. So hold on here. Let me switch. I'm going to do a new share because that will pretty much wrap it up. I got to make sure I select the right window though. I think it was this one. Let's try. If it isn't, then I'll switch again. No, it's the wrong one. Come on. There you go. It's popping up now. I'm going to do a new share. Let's try this window instead. Are you seeing? I don't know what you guys are seeing.
I can see the Google Drive.
Okay, that's what I want. Thank you.
Can see reboot.
Right, that's what I want at the moment. So I'm going to switch it again. As I had new share. Oh, come out, wherever you are. I'm going to try this one again. But this is just working wonky. Okay. Okay, well, let's go to my website and let's see if that works. So I can show, we can start the video and then you can continue this on Monday. It's got all this stuff that's getting in the way on my screen that you probably can't see. So if we go to Kirk's classes and we go to, you're looking at Kirk's classes, I presume?
Yes.
Okay, so if we go to video tutorials, and you see the YouTube now?
Yes.
Okay, and if we go to Lightwave tutorials, I don't want that one. But if we scroll down to the bottom, because I just added these, here's the one on environment lights. It was created for the version 2018. This is pretty nice too, both of these. The basic BPR tutorial for Lightwave, the environment light tutorial, and the basic Lightwave light tutorial. The environment light is what I wanted though.
Okay everyone, hiya. I thought I'd do a little tutorial here on the environment light. This is a problem I've seen come up a number of times, even among people who've been using this for a while now. Some of the testers have. So
everybody can hear okay and see okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice,
well, this
slightly glossy surface, a bit of subsurface scattering. You know, there's nothing special about it.
This is almost 20 minutes, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but
I've got
I strongly recommend if you want to use an environmental
so we'll take
light
a look through the scene.
and to get rid of what he calls, and it's kind of a cute little name, but he calls for all the little flicks of dots that you see from time to time.
Yeah.
He calls them fireflies or that sort of thing. So, little, so to get rid of those, he'll go through each of these modes and show you how to make the necessary changes.
Buffers, you can see here I have.
So I find that to be really useful. Oh, I know what we were going to do. Dan, do you want to walk me through? Let's go back to, I want to change a mesh. So for example, I'm going to do a new share and I'm going to go back to here. So everybody should be seeing my Lightwave scene.
Yes.
Okay. Turn this off. I'm going to go to Modeler. And what I would like to do is I would like to take this mesh and turn this sphere into a light. So Dan, any ideas?
Well, usually what you want to do is you want to add a light. And after you add, you want to select primitive.
Ah, okay. So let me switch back to, I want to switch back to the Lightwave. And let's go ahead and add a light. So,
so select primitive.
And
And then just give it a name.
Ball.
And what it's going to do is it's going to make a null. And then what you want to do is go to the properties of that primitive light. So make sure that you have it selected, and then click on P for properties.
Okay, so here's that light that I just created, primitive.
Okay. All right, and then select properties. And then what you want to do is you're supposed to be able to select the object that you want it to represent.
So that would be under basic down here. Yeah, it would be layer 2. So there it is. Okay, and then I would have to move it, I presume, over the object.
Yeah, yeah, you just move it to where you want it to be.
Okay.
Is layer 2 your square?
Layer 2, no. Layer 2 should be the sphere.
Oh,
Should it take on the properties of the object itself?
it should go into.
Yeah, see? It's taking on the whole thing. So it's just, this is just the sphere.
So where it says in the light properties at the bottom where it says primitive, do you have it set for the sphere, or is that what?
Oh, that's a good question. Hold on. Let me bring that back up. Lights.
So in primitive at the bottom,
Yeah.
it will ask you what primitive are you using.
Yeah, I'm using the one. Oh, no, I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see your light properties window, so I can't see what you see.
Oh, okay. It's not under primitive. It says samples for primitive, and it's asking me which, but it happens to be a layer. So maybe that's my problem. It needs to be a separate object that I've imported.
Do you have separate objects in this scene, or is it just a layer?
It's just on a different layer. So maybe that's the issue. I'll come back and do that on another time because we're already at 11
Well,
here. We're
if
gonna
you what you could do is at the top of layout there's a tab that says model, and then you can click on once you click on that tab on the left, you can go to create geometry, and then you can create another sphere or whatever you want, and that'll pop that in the scene. And with that sphere created, you can select that as their primitive.
Okay, wait, run that by me again.
So at the top of the layout there is a model tab,
Yeah, the modeler. If I go to modeler.
and not modeler, but to the left, you'll see all your tabs on the left. One of them says model. You see where it says utilities on the left.
Oh, yeah.
Utilities,
I'm sorry, I didn't wasn't
IO,
following far enough, but I've also have it.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a model, and then go to the left where it says create. Down. There you go. To the left.
Okay.
It says geometry. Select that.
Sphere.
And then click sphere, and tell it what kind of sphere you want.
It's okay. It's all right.
And
Okay.
it'll make a sphere. And
Okay,
then,
so we can turn that into a light.
yeah. So when you go into the light properties,
Which you're not seeing my light property.
I'm not
right?
seeing that. But if you make sure you.
Yeah, now I have the sphere selected.
So make sure that you have in the primitive window of light properties, down at the bottom there, it'll say samples, and then it'll say primitive, and that's when you select your sphere object there.
Yeah, I have it, but it still comes up as a box.
Okay. Oh.
Huh.
If you, hold on a second. Hmm. Well, hmm. Go ahead and go into VPR mode.
That could be the issue too. Yeah. Whoops. Wrong thing. So here's that.
And you want to turn off all the other lights.
Yeah. So let me go back up here. You can't see my scene editor, can
No,
you? Okay.
yeah, just turn off all your other lights.
Weird thing, I guess turn off environment light. All of the rest are turned off, and look at how much there is. Something quirky is happening.
Turn off the background.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to backdrop. No. Okay. Now let me turn that what I named as a ball light back on.
All right. So then,
Now I should be able to change, because there is light coming from there, or on there. You see it all?
yeah, increase the intensity.
Yeah. So let's go back to light properties, ball light, and let's crank that up to like 24, then lux. There you go.
Watch it with the claws. Sorry for that. They're working on the house.
Okay. I'm going to switch from that to demo layer to see what that does. No. So 48. It looks like the light is coming from the side. So if I switch
Yeah.
from camera view back to perspective, I want to see what's going on, and I want to turn off VPR. That's because it's coming. This is what I need to move. If I move this here, now let's go back to camera view and let's look at, there you go.
So yeah, so you're the ball itself is not going to illuminate.
Right. So if I go back to the objects and I select a new sphere and I look at properties. Well, actually, I don't want to do that. I wanted to look at the surface editor. And let's change the luminosity. That's all that did. I'm going to have to play with this and see what we have. Let me stop sharing for a minute and come back and see who's here. So I still have 6 of you. Okay. I have a new message at the bottom. let me, before we end today, I want to take roll. We're doing okay, but I wonder, everybody see my roll sheet?
Yes.
I don't see your roll sheet.
Uh,
Oh wait, no, I don't see any roll seat. Other than
Okay. So it has to do with sharing again. Again, I have so many windows open and stuff, I'll just go down the sheet here and do it and we'll be done. So Alex, Montacon is here.
yes.
Dan is here. Let me just, so Bobby Adams is here. Dan is here. Is Jennifer Castillo here? No. How about Aaron Estrada? Aaron is here. Nelson Fuentes is here. How about Daniel Gomez? He was.
Hello.
You're here, Daniel? Okay.
Yep.
Alex Montacon is here.
Yep.
Vanessa Martinez, is Vanessa here? No. Omar Miranda? No. How about Christian Velasquez? No. How about Sarah Razzo? She was here. So I'll put her here, and Biddy is not here. So maybe Biddy is dropping the class. Okay, so right now you're just seeing a picture of me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if there aren't any questions, are we done for? Oh no, there were a couple more things if you guys have time. There were a couple more scenes that I wanted to show you that are light related, and
Okay.
they have to do with translucency, which you may have already seen. That's one, and also color, when you're transferring color. So let me go ahead and load a scene. And I'm just gonna go ahead and load it. I'm not gonna save this scene. Let's start with translucency, and I'm gonna open that up. Scenes. Okay, can everybody see this or no?
No.
Okay, so let me go back up and let's, come on. I need to share screen. And this is what I want to share. Now can everybody see it?
Yes.
So I got to close a whole bunch of stuff here. And we're looking at this screen from a perspective view, right? Let's look at it from camera view. Let me turn off some things. Have you seen this before, Dan?
Yes, I've seen that before.
Okay. So I wanted to share this with everybody though.
Cookie. Descend the clause.
So you just see a screen here. And it is lighted, but you don't see anything behind the scene. But what I want to do is if I bring up the surface editor, and let's switch from textured shaded to VPR. And if you look, you can see the silhouette of a cow, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we switch back to from camera view to perspective, so you can see what's going on here. There is, in fact, I'm going to move some of this stuff around. Behind the screen, we have our cow. Now, why can we see the silhouette of the cow? And I thought that this was good, nice demo on translucency. And it's something that you need to pay attention to, that when we look here in our surface editor, that what I want to do is if I have the paper blinds and I select the paper, that you'll notice that translucency is set to 50%. I can crank that up or turn it down, but I'm going to switch back from perspective to camera view. And I didn't want that. That's current light view. I want camera view. There we go. Okay. So now if I turn off translucency, and this is what we were sort of doing with the first light shade when we were working with the lamp and the table.
Right.
So that if you weren't aware of it, that transparency is different. You can actually see through it. So if I add transparency, you know, that's a different animal. If I do that, I can actually see through. So that's what we have with glass. But when we have shades like this Japanese screen, if I want to make sure that these panels, the light can permeate them, but we can't see through them, then you change the translucency. So this again is a nice light related issue. Now, obviously the light has to be behind the cow shining through the screen. So that's that one. The other one is, for example, if you had a stained glass window and you wanted that stained glass to transfer onto the floor when the light comes through it. So I'm going to go ahead and load another scene. I just want to load the scene. And I'm going to go back from here. And I'm going to go back to here. Let's look at scenes. Because these are all old. This is color filter. And it's changed a little bit in the newer versions as to where it's located. Okay, so here we have, if we look at the window, okay, and we look at the texture of it, you can see that in here, can everybody see this, I hope?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the stained glass. And if we switch from that's being projected on here, but we're in texture shaded, so you're not seeing anything. So if I switch to VPR, okay, now the light obviously is behind the stained glass. If I were to switch from camera view to, I don't want light view, I don't know why I keep selecting that. There we go, perspective view. Have you seen this one before, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if we come behind here and we look, the light's back here. So let me turn VPR off. There you go. See the light up here? Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the light is shining through the window, but if you don't use the color filter, it will just project the light through that image. And it doesn't matter what kind of image it is. In this particular instance, it happens to be stained glass, but it could be any kind of, what am I doing here? I want VPR. There we go. So where that is found is down, can everybody, I hope, see the surface editor here?
No, I don't see the surface editor window.
Okay, we're going through that deal again. Oh, shoot. Okay. So I'm going to do a new share. Oh, shoot. The surface editor is going to be huge. And then I'm going to have to share it. And you see a big surface. I'm going to have to do a new share again. And I'm going to do this one. Hopefully you see it. You see it now?
No.
You still don't see it? Okay. Let me try again. New share. This is the one. We'll try this one. Every time I add panels, it starts as a new share.
Oh,
Now you can see this.
I can see everything now.
Okay, but I've got this other stuff, this other chat stuff and panels and stuff that you can't see that have to do with Zoom. Anyway, this is where it's moved. Here's the color filter, and it's set to 100%. But if I turn that off to none, you can see how the light shines through the image, but on the floor, it's just, you know, you can see that the floor is lighted, but you don't see
Right.
the transfer of the stained glass. So that's where this is done, color filter. So if there's something that you want to do at a later date with that, that transfers this image, the color of that image onto whatever surface the light is projecting on. So I thought that was useful. Okie doke. I'm done if you guys are done. for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to, have such a bad habit of having so many panels and windows open. When I start my classes, I'm going to have, online now, I'm going to have to just pare it down to just the windows that I need. And that's it.
Mm.
And shut everything else off. Be able to transfer from one to another. And when I open up a new panel too, that is, you said, Dan, that you can't see it. So I have to go back up and I have to do a new share, and then it shows one with the panel on it, and then I have to share it with that. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's all a learning experience.
For sure, very different from me standing in front of you, that's for sure. So, well, I'll muddy through all of this. So are there any other people that have joined or no, or make sure that before all of you guys check out today, that in the future, just go to this room in class or this week in class and check on this day, on the day of the week, and I'll have a new webcast. So the next one that we'll have will be Monday again at 10 o'clock. If we need to meet earlier, we can, but I thought that 10 o'clock would be.
Yeah, I actually brought her over here just because.
10 o'clock is great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then for my afternoon classes, it's 2 o'clock. So if you ever want to sign into any of those, and if you have any questions for me or anything, let me know.
Mm.
Just sign into the class and I can, you know, talk separately to you guys.
Right. Do we have a new assignment to do right now, or just?
You're done with your toy and you got your toy grade, right?
Yeah.
So most of the 2 people, you and one other student who finished the toy, you need to think about a final project for the remainder of the semester, and that's it.
Okay.
And in this assignment, I want you to put everything together so that all of your modeling skills, all of your lighting skills, if you want to do a focus, for example, on a product piece, you know, some people like building products, but that would, you know, you would want to build it in its infinite detail and show that off.
Okay.
If you would rather do an environment, like some people might want to do the interior of a room, and that would be a good way of modeling some furniture or things like that, but not a whole lot. But then again, emphasizing lighting techniques. surfacing techniques, and there's some other videos that I will make available for you guys that show more sophisticated ways of using the node editor to create really dynamic looking surfaces. I mean, so it'll be kind of a more advanced feature of that. And that will be true for if you want to create a teddy bear or something with fur, so that you would use fiber effects. And, it's just going to be, you know, whatever you want, more detail. And as you can see on my website, there's lots for the final projects. There's lots of different options that are available that people have done over the years. It's, you know, what you feel that you know, what do you enjoy working on? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Okay.
And then build out from that. Start with a basic object or scene and then expand. But, you know, break it down so that you don't spend all of your time in the modeling. In the weeks left that we have, we only have maybe 7 weeks left, 8 weeks.
Okay.
7, 8, probably 7 working weeks. The 8th week would normally be finals week, which we can still have a webinar for finals week. So that will take you into the last day, you know, but break it down into thirds or fourths. Spend 2 or 3 weeks modeling. Spend 2, you know, if you need more or less, you know, weeks surfacing, and then lighting and staging your scene, and then tweaking the camera settings and the lighting and stuff in the end to do your final renderings. And for the final project, I want 2 separate renderings. You know, showing off, if you're doing a product shot, then maybe one is an overall shot and then another is a detail. If you're doing an environment, then maybe from 2 different, you know, points of view, 2, you know, kind of an overall shot and one from a different angle, showing off the 3D properties. That's the whole point of the class, is 3D modeling. So I don't, you know, so that it doesn't look like a Photoshop project that looks like something that you've done in Lightwave. That's the whole
Okay.
point of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you guys can see, you know, lots of different examples on my website, and might give you some ideas, and maybe you want to go in a different direction. It can be fairly abstract. It can be fairly real. It can go in a whole bunch, you know, whatever. Since you're going to be investing the rest of the semester into this project, I want to make sure that it's something that you can immerse yourself in. If I were to tell you what to do, you might begrudgingly do it, but I would rather you find something that's interesting. Okie
Sounds
doke.
good. Sounds good.
Okay. So I think we are, no. I think I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment. Yeah, it's still recording all of this. So we'll see. I'll try to put this up on YouTube. It's probably gonna be a mishmash. I'm not gonna edit it. It will take forever to edit. Something decent. So, okay. So if everybody's good, you're free to go ahead and to sign out. And if you have questions for me, you can hang around and you can have, do it verbally or go ahead and add it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, see ya.
Oh, the YouTube link for the recordings, Sarah wants to know. If you go to, I haven't recorded them yet. I haven't put any up except for the ones that I talked about today. And there's a bunch of other tutorials. If you go to this week in, or not this week in class, if you go to Kirk's classes and the drop-down menu, it will say video lessons, I think. Hold on here. Yeah, if you go to Kirk's classes and you drop down, it says video tutorials. So let me go there. And the ones that I have for this class, I have really old ones that I have recorded, but the ones are lightwave tutorials. And there are about 100 of them that I have stored there. But as far as this lecture is concerned, I will stop, and then later this afternoon and tonight, I'll try to put it up on YouTube so that you guys can take a peek at it. When I stop recording it, it will make it available. Zoom will make it available later for me to upload to my YouTube page. Okie doke. Sarah, does that answer your question? Okay, so we're good. So I'm going to stop the recording, and I will see you guys Monday or later this week.
Okey doke.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Right.